Welcome to the Prophecy Club. I've got a very important program for you today. The topic is the prophecies say that China is about to invade and attack Taiwan. No, I'm not kidding. And to say the most important thing I want to say, where we're really going with this, is if Vicky Goforth Parnell is hearing from God, and sadly I think she is, then what is going to happen February the 24th, we're going to see China invade Taiwan. And in that, Russia just put up possibly a satellite that has a nuke. Yeah, there's a lot of things pointing to a confirmation. So let's get into it. First of all, from Natural News, Red Dawn Alert. Chinese agents are being sent across Mexican border to prepare for attacks on U.S. soil. One is video. I skipped part. One is a video post on X showing recently arrived Chinese migrants firing pistols, including a Chinese woman operating a sniper rifle. Okay, so why would migrants just coming into their new nation that they love, just because they can't get a job in another nation and they want a better life for themselves, why would they be doing target practice? That's essentially what he says here. Within weeks of entering your new homeland, why would you be sharpening your skills to kill? Why would you be thinking of killing unless that's why you came to the United States? This is supported by comments by retired Air Force General Blaine Holt. He reports that Chinese migrants are also carrying out target practice in Idaho, where he lives. So that's two different people saying that Chinese are getting here and practicing killing. He said that the tens of thousands of military-age men have already made their way into the U.S. Okay, so what happened to the women with children? Okay, no, it's military-age men of China coming in, including terrorists and state actors working for the People's Liberation Army of China. Skipping. Chinese migrants are the fastest growing group of people trying to cross in America via Mexico. Sounds like they're prepositioning people. Chinese men of military age are often traveling groups of up to 15 unaccompanied, in other words, no women and children, and performing Chinese military rituals along the way. I don't know what a Chinese military ritual is, but apparently they're not coming here for a job. Although some migrants are turned away, China often refuses to take them back, and the U.S. has no way to force them to do so. Customs and Border Protection recently relaxed the screening process used for people from China entering the country to make it easier for the Chinese to get in. Now, listen to this. They reduced the number of questions that processors must ask Chinese migrants from 40 down to just 5. In other words, they are specifically letting Chinese in easier than any other nation, facilitating the flow of fentanyl into our country or sending thousands of people across the border illegally. Now, I'm not going to read all of this. It's a long one. I'm just going to read part of it. A gathering of evil is overheard. I read this here in the last couple of weeks. Each time the stream begins, I'm inside of a yellow, glowing, clear ball surrounding me. She goes down into the deep parts of the earth. Let me get to the point. Now you have the signal to watch for to initiate further our plans. Watch for the flying lanterns to be released. If she's hearing of God, and sad to say, I think she is, then what they just told us is when China is going to attack Taiwan. There's more. So what is February 24th of 2024? Well, that day only arrives once every 12 years. Now, yes, they have a Chinese New Year every year, but the Lantern Festival only happens once a year, and the Year of the Dragon only happens once every 12 years. So meaning, this only comes once every 12 years. I hope you're getting this. Let's go on. There's more. So then in another vision given to Vicky Parnell, and I'm going to read all of it, let's pay attention to the bottom line. It's the Chinese New Year celebration. having to do when this attack is coming. Now there's more. So in this, she says, Gigi Jean received a call. He speaks in Chinese, can't understand him, but immediately jets and ships begin to depart for the attack. So she says, Jesus, is Taiwan being openly invaded on the Chinese New Year? Now, look, this is really serious. I'm smiling, kind of chuckling. I guess that's maybe a way I deal with bad news, but look, Jesus, is Taiwan being openly invaded on the Chinese New Year? Well, we're in that Chinese New Year right now, and earlier it specifically said the Lantern Festival. It says the day and the time has arrived. Okay, so this is Jesus answering her. I'll read it again. Jesus, is Taiwan openly invading on the Chinese New Year, no longer in the secret of shadows. So then the angel answers her. The day, the time has arrived, O beloved daughter of mine. Taiwan was for a sign for you that it is the time of war against your nation. What'd they just say? Okay, so she just asked, is Taiwan about to be invaded, specifically on the Chinese New Year? And the angel says, yes, in so many words. The day, the time has arrived. Okay, that's basically saying, yes, you got it right. Taiwan was a sign for you that it is the time of war against your nation. So what are they saying? They're saying yes. On the New Lantern Festival, which is February 24th, 2024, won't occur again for another 12 years. It starts in full and not in part. In other words, it's a full-fledged, all-out attack, China going against Taiwan. As you recall, the next thing after that is Japan being attacked, and then Guam and Hawaii being attacked, and then Russia being attacked. And I'm going to show you that in some of the prophecies in just a second. All right, let's go on. This is a long one. I'm not going to read all of it either. So Dana Coverstone, this is December 2020, and a lot of this, we have not seen it happen, but apparently it's about to happen. So I saw fire. This is only part of it. I saw fires everywhere. I saw people being rounded up, and I saw Chinese and Russian soldiers on the ground. Russian soldiers are telling the Chinese soldiers to go and pick up these people here or there in this quarter and there, okay? I saw blue helmets of the UN skipping down. I saw churches being burned. We just had another prophecy, 2 programs ago, that churches are going to be burned. So this is all kind of part of the same time frame. You could say it's further confirmation. Now, this is another long one, and I'd like to read all of it, but I'm going to have to just skip through it. Okay, so this is June 2022, Dana Coverstone. I believe was hearing of God also. When the dream started, I was standing in the port of Los Angeles, in the shipping yard where the large containers are being lifted off the ships. I saw 8 jet black containers set on the ground about 15 feet apart, and they were pristine and clean with larger Chinese letters in black on them as well. The letters about 5 by 5 with a brown black background that really stood out almost like 3D on the containers. Now, here's the point. It was light outside, and I also could see a large clock tower that seemed to be about high above the shipping facility, and it was on exactly 3. Now, does that mean something? I want to say this is a picture of the 3rd month in whatever attack or whatever nation, in whatever year this attack takes place. So if the attack takes place in 2024, that would mean that this is a picture of March. Well, that kind of fits. If the invasion takes place February 24th, and I'm not saying it, I'm simply quoting a lot of other people, a lot of other information that all kind of seems to be lining up. So it could be giving us a picture of March 2024. Now, did I say this is going to happen March 2024? No, I didn't. But it was exactly 3. All the 8 doors of the containers began to bang and shake violently. Suddenly the doors opened and a man in military equipment rode out of the first container on a very large green dirt bike. It had leather saddlebags on both sides and the seat very large knobby tires. The helmet came off the head of the man on the motorcycle. He stepped off the bike after putting the kickstand down, meaning it may be that we're about to see a bunch of these Chinese migrants, as they call them, or illegal aliens, in the month of March, start attacking us inside the nation. He was orientally began screaming towards the trucks and pointing in different directions, and he was very, very, very angry. And his face was very, very red, and suddenly checked his watch and put his helmet on and got back on the motorcycle and started it. Now the clock struck 4. So is this the 4th month of 2024? And there was a deep bell that rang, and the earth shook for a moment. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, so what is this earth shook? Well, we do know that if Omer ushers in Palestinian state takes place this year, and if it is the counting of the Omer, we do know that that is from April the 25th to June the 3rd. June 13th. So, this taking place in the 4th month would fit, wouldn't it? So, did this just tell us that there's going to be a headline that says Omer ushers in Palestinian state, and that it was Biden or America twisting Israel's arm? America split Israel, so God split America. Is it? But see, it kind of fits, doesn't it? Sad to say, let's go on. Then out of each container came about 25 soldiers on the same kind of motorcycles with saddlebags and AK-47s over their backs. At this point, I could see RPGs and lots of ammo and weapons in those saddlebags, so we're being invaded from within as well as attacked from without. And when the first soldier took off out of the port, the rest of them followed and went in different directions once they were outside the fence line. Scene changed. I was hearing news reports and seeing newspaper headlines with serious-faced reporters announcing deaths occurred all over the country, in both rural and metropolitan areas. And why? The reports were about water systems being poisoned. Now, doesn't that make sense? So they attack us from within, they attack us from without. All at the same time, by that time, water gets poisoned. So we're being attacked several different ways. I saw headlines that said entire communities are poisoned through water supply. Reporters were telling people to drink nothing but bottled water, or water they knew was not connected to the local water supply. It was affecting both larger and smaller communities, but not every community. It was impacting the West more than other places in the U.S., according to reporters, and they were announcing that there were National Guard units, fully armed, watching water facilities. Now, when they're watching the water facilities, what does that tell you? It's not just nature, not just an accident, it isn't on purpose. Enemies within our borders are attacking us. Thousands were reported as having died, and hospitals were full of heavily poisoned people getting medical treatment, and FEMA centers were being set up in those regions. An emergency broadcast announcement was running along the bottom of the TV screens, and monitors stated that the boiling water was not an effective way of making any water safe. What does that mean? See, if it's a virus or a bacteria, boiling water would fix it. But if it's some kind of a chemical or like a snake poison or something like that, boiling it won't fix it. I then saw a clock tower above a multiple municipal water supply, and his hands were pointed to 4:05 in the afternoon. So is that talking about like the 5th day of the 4th month of 2024? Well, I mean, I don't know, but if Vicky Parnell's hearing from God, that's, and also Dana Coverstone, if they were hearing from God, if I've understood this right, that's exactly what it's saying. Do you remember I had 5 dreams over the last 2 weeks, 5 dreams, telling me to lighten the load, start selling things. And I am in the process of selling things. I'm lightening our load, suggest you do too. Then I saw 4 lines of lights that seemed to be coming up from the border that reminded me of video of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. In other words, people are streaming into America like there's not any border fence. But then there's not a border fence, is there? It seemed that many people were coming from the border, but in a very organized way. There's a video circulating around out there about this guy that jumped on in Venezuela and started following people up the Venezuelan trail all the way up to America. And he says it's very organized. And he also said it's mostly Chinese. Anyway, let's go on. So many people coming up the border, but in a very organized way. They moved north hundreds of miles from California to Texas with the lights bright enough to be seen from space. They all stopped moving at once, and when they did, smaller light trails from within the United States started moving towards the big light where the movement had stopped, all organized. It was like watching moths drawn to a flame, and the source light kept getting bigger and bigger. Then it flashed once. All the smaller lights were attached. It went dark for a few moments, then pulsed, then exploded, and the light was spread in hundreds of miles beyond the source of the explosion. Okay, so is that an EMP attack? Or is that simply that there's a scattering of all of these evil people in our nation? Then the clock showed 4:10. So are we talking about like maybe the second week in April of 2024? I don't know for certain, but that would be the best guess. Small embers of flames are coming down around the clock, but not catching the ground on fire, although it looked like it should have. There was sudden silence that permeated the atmosphere, and then I saw the clock strike 4:15. All of this could be taking place in the fourth month. And there seemed to be an alarm going off across the nation. Then the scene changed. I saw churches of all shapes and sizes which were surrounded by mobs of people who were screaming. They chanted hostile threats. Okay, so probably a lot of this is going to be blamed on Christians and on churches. And then the bad guys are sent in to attack them. And so I'm telling you, in her was found the blood of prophets and saints and all that was slain upon the earth. Last verse, Revelation 18. Meaning, America is going to turn into a Christian killing machine. Count on it. They chanted hostile threats, but were staying some distance away from each church, around 150 feet. Inside the churches, I could hear people leading others in prayer, but their prayers had no power and authority. And the crowds kept surging. Why do their prayers have no power and authority? Because they don't really know the Word. They don't really know their power and authority in the Word. And they're lukewarm church visiting Christians. Suddenly, and in at least 5 locations, I saw arrows fired into the crowd from the roof of the churches. Each of these arrows scattered the hostile crowd, but they impacted only the pavement, and the protesters fled. As I watched the people scrambling, I noticed that there was an archer on each of those church roofs, and it appeared to be the very same man firing arrows in each location at a precisely time. The alarm had been going off from the clock during this entire time, and it stopped as the man began walking towards me. It was the man I see in the dreams. He had a quiver full of sheer white arrows with extremely sharp points. Over his shoulder, from over his back, he pulled a very large bow and put the bottom of it on the ground. He stood silent for a few moments, surveying the area. He turned to me and said, "There must be precision in your prayers from this point forward." In other words, you can't do these general prayers anymore. Absolute precision is needed to counter the noise and the violence that will be aimed at the body of Christ. The church must remember that it is not by might, nor by power, nor by my spirit, but by my spirit that will help you walk straight through the battle. So it's a lot of Sunday morning Christians. It's a lot of fair weather Christians that had no power in their prayers. But you must have precision and power in your prayers. The war has arrived. Okay, what did that just say? The war we know that the Battle of Armageddon started February the 22nd of 22 when Russia invaded Ukraine, and it's not going to stop until Jesus returns for Armageddon. But this is a war about America. The war to destroy America has arrived, is what it's saying. And those awake are on the front lines now, and you will never be able to get away from that line. Absolute precision is required in your prayers. After saying this, he quickly put an arrow into the bow and shot it straight up in the air. The arrow never came back down, but he kept looking into the air where he shot it, and he never looked back at me. Remember to be precise, as it matters more than ever right now. Then he disappeared. The scene changed. I saw people watching TV monitors in airports and homes were covering their mouths in horror at what they saw. Now here's another cue. See, it kind of fits with what our interpretation. It was summer as the grass was browning from the heat. Okay, fourth month, let's see, January, February, March, April. That would be April, right? That fits, that it's summertime now. So our interpretation that these numbers are the months within the year 2024, apparently. It was on the screens of every TV. People were crying, embracing each other, and seeming in shock. Now, let me summarize this. It's important we go through this. So, January, February, March, that would be March, Army Chinese arrive. April, bell sounds, earth shakes. That fits. Okay, April 25th would very well fit. Chinese secretly poison. Boiling water does not remove the poison. Then shortly after that, organized team from the South pour into the United States. People from the South and the North are drawn to the light explosion. 4:15, like middle of May. Alarm sounds across the nation. Churches are attacked. White House. Okay, so all of that, we may very well see that here in 2024. Let's go on. I got a lot more. Now, this was April 22, 1996. And I'll tell you right up front, in my opinion, it is not exactly clear on the interpretation. I think the way that it was worded is simply unclear, but I'll do my best to try to tell you. And I'm going to tell you, this is what I've thought all these years, but in light of some of the things Vicky has been getting, my interpretation may not be exactly correct. It might be this. So I'm going to give you an A or a B interpretation. So Dimitri says, I prayed, then went to bed. I was still awake when suddenly I heard a trumpet sound. A voice cried out to me saying, stand. Then I saw 3 men dressed alike. 2 of the men, being angels, carried weapons. One of the armed men said, I woke you to show you what is to come. Come with me. When we reached the place, he said, stop here. A pair of binoculars are handed to me, and I was told to look through them. Stand here, don't move, and look. He continued, you will see what they are saying, what they are preparing for America. I saw the president of Russia and a short, chubby man who said he was the president of China. Now, is that a short, chubby man of Russia, or is that a short, chubby man of China? That's part of the question. And 2 others I could not understand, and I gathered they were part of the Russian-controlled territory. The Russian president began to speak to the Chinese one. I will give you all of the land with all of the people, but you must free Taiwan of the Americans. Do not fear, we will attack them from behind. Now, who's saying that? It's probably the Chinese saying, we will free Taiwan of the Americans if you attack from behind. And that fits. Hang on, there's more. Then the voice said to me, watch where the Russians penetrate America. I saw these words being written, Alaska, Minnesota, and Florida. The man spoke. Now, this is the point. This is the major point, so notice this. When America goes to war with China, the Russians will strike without warning. Okay, so when China attacks Taiwan, the prophecy from Vicky says then Japan and America will come to the rescue. That would mean America going against China, and that would mean that shortly thereabouts, Russia would attack America without warning. Hang on, there's more. The other 2 presidents spoke. We too will fight for you. Each had a place already planned as the point of attack. All of them shook hands and hugged. They all signed a contract. One of them said, we're also sure that Korea and Cuba will be on our side too. Without a doubt, together we can destroy America. The president of Russia began to speak consistently. Why not ourselves, being led by the Americans? Why not rule the world ourselves? They must be kicked out of Europe too. Then I could do as I pleased with Europe. The man standing beside me asked, this is what you saw. They act as friends, and they say they respect treaties made together. But everything I've shown you is how it will really happen. Now, that's the question. Is it going to happen where China attacks Taiwan, then Russia attacks us? Because what Dmitry was told was, the fall of America will start with an internal revolution in America started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. The government will be busy with internal problems. Then from the oceans, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, and two of the countries you cannot remember will attack and defeat America in 1 day and 1 hour. Now here's the difference. Then God will raise up China and Japan and many of the nations. They'll go against the Russians and defeat the Russians and back the Russians to the gates of Paris, where they sign a peace treaty, but they make the Russians the leader. Under the leadership of the Russians, all the world goes down to attack Israel. It's Armageddon. Jesus returns on the clouds and defeats the armies of the earth. Now, I'm not sure, but the point that seems to be the point we need to look at is when America goes to war with China, the Russians will strike without warning. Dmitri was visited by Gabriel August 3rd of 1984. Move that forward exactly 40 years, and that comes to August 3rd of 2024. So, is 2024 the year of the internal revolution? Is 2024 the year that the Russians are going to strike us without warning? I want to think we have more time. I don't know. I asked God, but he ain't telling me. Let's move on. Who are you? I ask. I'm the protector of America. America's sin has reached God. He will allow this destruction, for he can no longer stand such wickedness. God still has people that worship him with a clean heart as they do his work. He has prepared a heavenly army to save these people. As I looked, I saw a great army, well dressed and dressed in white, appeared before me. Do you see that? The man said. This army will go to battle to save my chosen ones. Then the difference between the godly and the ungodly will be evident. So, apparently, if you put it all together, I want you to understand, God's not told me. I'm not prophesying this. I'm simply a watchman. I'm simply bringing you. There is a high probability on February the 24th of 2024. It's a day to watch. There's a high probability that Vicky Goforth is right, is hearing from God, and has been warned that China will attack Taiwan. And then, as we said in the last program, then there's China, Japan, and America go to help. And then when we're defending Taiwan, then Russia attacks us without warning. I don't want to think it's coming this year, but as a watchman, I've got to warn you. So what should you do? Get prepared. I recommend, if you want to have your wealth not lost, if you've got it in an IRA, if you got it in a 401k, if you got it in a bank, if your wealth is in paper, as Lindsey Williams said, it's worth the paper it's written on. In other words, it's about to be worthless. So I'll send you to prophecyclubgold.com. You can also reach them. Call 800-200-4653. 800-200-4653. They'll give you some ideas on what to do. That is their job, to help you not lose your wealth. I also recommend you go to josephkitchen.com. Get yourself a machine package. That's the wherewithal to grind the wheat berries into flour, put those into a bread machine with 5 other ingredients, push about 2 hours and 40 minutes later, you have a nice hot loaf of whole wheat bread. I've had many people email me. They absolutely love the bread. They love the whole idea. And see, because it's long-term storage food. And as in the days of Pharaoh, what fed the world for 7 years? It was wheat. I believe wheat is God's food for famines, for God's famine food. There is no perfect one food a person could eat for their whole lifetime and be totally healthy. But in my opinion, bread may come the closest. I mean, why does God call us the wheat? Wheat and the tares, okay? I think it's because the primary thing we're supposed to be eating is wheat. So go there, and then after you get the machine package, that's all of the mechanical things to make the bread, then you decide how much food you want. By the way, most of your long-term storage food, you're talking $9,000 or $10,000 to feed one person for 1 year. Did you get that? $9,000 to $10,000, one person 1 year. Joseph Kitchen can show you how to do it for about $1,000 per person. We're not talking about half price. We're not talking about 80% less. We're talking about like 90% less than what the other people can tell you that they can get you long-term storage for. I do not know of anybody that can beat that. This is an actual loaf of bread that I actually made. I eat bread. I mean, it's. I also have to say that it's brought my cholesterol down. It's brought my blood pressure down, and that I don't get hungry as often. I typically will have a slice for breakfast and a slice for lunch, and then a normal meal for whatever. And I've lost 30 pounds over the last year. And in my opinion, I think the primary thing is that did it was, of course, watching what I eat and, all the other things, but bread. So I eat bread as the primary source. And it'll reduce your food budget too. Anyway, go check it out. So what is an EMP Shield device? It's a device you can put on your car and your house that in an EMP attack is supposed to stop the attack. And if you go to empshield.com and if you use the promo code Prophecy, they give you a $50 discount. They also have videos up there, shows you how to install it on your car and your house and everything, and it's not difficult at all. I've got one of them right here. Red goes to red, black goes to black, green goes to the car, body of your car, and you just peel it off the back, stick it under there. Got another device that goes on your house. So not complicated. Take you about 10 minutes to put them in. So empshield.com, promo code is Prophecy. Rule number 1, make sure your name is written in the book of life. Rule number 1, ask Jesus to forgive your sins. That's the most important thing. Number 2, most important thing, whatever happens, do not take that mark of the beast. You take that mark of the beast, you can cut your hand off, you can chisel off your forehead, but you're going to spend all eternity with the beast, the false prophet, and 1,000 years later, Lucifer joins them, and all the other people that take the mark of the beast, and there is no hope of escape. You're tormented. That means you're in total pain. It means that your body, although it's not a body of flesh, whatever it is, your body is totally being burned for all eternity, and there is no stopping it. There is no escaping it. Whatever happens, you do not want to take that mark of the beast, which, by the way, I would recommend you go to prophecyclub.com and get my book, Miss the Mark. As a matter of fact, it's sold so much, we are, I think, now going into the 5th printing. This book is simple. It only takes about 3 hours to read. It's designed to give to someone that's not a Christian, doesn't know Jesus, that hadn't read the Bible. Give it to anybody out there. If they'll read the first few pages, they'll probably finish the book. If they finish the book, I don't care what God they used to have, they're not going to take that mark of the beast. And chances are very strong they'll receive Jesus. So for that, I would send you to prophecyclub.com. 1 for $20, and you'll have to check and get whatever the other prices are. I will say this, they just went up substantially on our printing price. And so guess what? No surprise, we had to go up on our prices too. But nevertheless, not about money. It's about winning souls.